I don't think I'll ever forget the moment I realized my own family didn't just talk behind my back. They strategized it. And the worst part, they were proud of it. My name is Tyler, and this is the story of how one forgotten phone turned my entire life upside down. Before I get into how my sister's secret group chat nearly broke me, and how it led to a discovery that changed everything, stick around and subscribe if you like stories where the quiet one finally fights back. You're going to want to hear this one. My sister Megan always had this way of making me feel like a supporting character in her life. Not cruel, not openly hostile, just dismissive, like I existed to fill whatever role she needed that week. A ride, a mover, a babysitter, a wallet, when she pretended she'd forgotten hers. I told myself that was just family, that helping was what you did. It wasn't until a few months ago that I realized I'd mistaken routine exploitation for love. That day started normal enough. Megan came over to borrow a charger she swore she'd return this time. She stayed for 10 minutes, laughed at a meme on her phone, and then rushed out the door because she was late for something important. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't even notice her phone still sitting on my kitchen counter until an hour later. It lit up once, then again, and again. At first I ignored it. I'm not the type to snoop. But after the 5th notification, I walked over and looked at the screen just to see if it was urgent. What I saw hit me so hard I had to sit down. A group chat, Megan plus my cousins, plus my older brother Adam. The preview showed a single line. "She's so pathetic she'll put us first even when we treat her like trash." My stomach dropped. I didn't even open the phone yet. That one sentence alone felt like a punch. Pathetic. Trash. Said so casually, so confidently, like it was an established fact. And she? That was me. I knew it instantly. My hands shook as I unlocked the phone. Megan never changed her passcode. 4 digits. Easy. The full chat loaded, and suddenly I was staring straight at the truth I'd been too naive to see for years. "Adam, Tyler will do anything if you guilt trip him. Just say it's for Mom." Cousin Nate, "We should get him to cover the deposit for the cabin trip. Easy." Megan, "Lol, obviously. He'll pay and say it's because he wants us together as a family. He's literally built for being used." Built for being used. I don't know how long I sat there reading. The messages stretched back weeks, maybe months. And the worst part wasn't their words. It was recognizing how many times I'd done exactly what they said I would. I felt stupid, embarrassed, angry. But beneath all that, something else flickered for the first time. Clarity. I scrolled up to find the start of the conversation. And that's when I noticed something odd. A screenshot. A bank transfer. My name. My routing number. My account. And a caption from Adam. Worked like a charm. That moment was the beginning of the end, though none of them knew it yet. I didn't even realize how long I sat frozen at my kitchen table. Megan's phone dimming and brightening as more messages rolled in. My mind kept circling the same question. How long had they been doing this? And how had I missed it? The more I scrolled, the more pieces snapped together in my head, forming a version of the past I'd never allowed myself to see clearly. Every favor, every guilt trip, every sudden family emergency that mysteriously disappeared once I had paid for something, it all made sense now. What hurt most wasn't even the money. It was how coordinated they were about using me. "Adam, tell him the garage door broke. He'll drive over. He always does." "Nate, we should get him to co-sign the loan. Just tell him it'll help us get on our feet. He's dumb enough." Megan, "Yeah, he won't ask questions. He never does." Maybe I should have put the phone down. Maybe I should have stopped looking. But I couldn't, because that bank screenshot bothered me. A lot. The numbers didn't make sense. I don't send money to Adam. And yet, there it was. My account, my details, my name tied to a transfer I didn't remember approving. At first, I assumed it was a single accidental transfer. Maybe I'd forgotten something. Maybe I'd helped Adam out once and the memory got buried under all the other moments I'd tried to push away. But then I saw another screenshot. And another, not accidental, not occasional. It was a pattern. Every few weeks, small amounts, $200, $300, sometimes $500, transferred from my account to Adam's or Nate's. Always followed by messages in the chat celebrating how easy it was. My heart pounded in my ears. My hands went numb. For a second, I wondered if I might actually pass out. Because that wasn't just betrayal. That wasn't just manipulation. That was theft. And it meant someone had access to my banking app. The realization hit me slow, like cold water creeping up my spine. Megan had logged into my account once. I remembered it now. Months ago, she'd asked to use my phone to check the time because hers was dead. When she handed it back, the screen was on my banking app login page. I hadn't thought anything of it then. I thought I was being helpful. They thought I was being stupid. I set the phone down and rubbed my face with both hands. I felt sick. My family, my own blood, thought so little of me that stealing from me was just an inside joke to them. I needed air. I grabbed my coat and stepped outside, pacing the sidewalk like if I kept moving, I could outrun the weight of everything I'd just seen. But the truth was welded to me now. It wasn't going anywhere. After about 20 minutes, I went back inside. The phone sat exactly where I'd left it, screen dark, like it was waiting for me. I picked it up again, not out of curiosity, but out of determination. If they thought I was an easy mark, fine. They could think that. But I wasn't going to stay one. I scrolled deeper into the chat. Somewhere around early spring, the tone shifted. Their messages became bolder, more demanding. Nate, tell him you need money for Mom's meds. He won't question it. Adam, we should just get him to put his paycheck in our shared account. Say it's for budgeting. Megan, lol, he probably would. Then came the message that made something in me snap clean in half. Adam, he's pathetic. He'll never fight back. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Maybe they believed it. Maybe I had believed it. But that version of me, the version they'd groomed and shaped, was dying right there at my kitchen table. I backed out of the chat to look at the lock screen. Megan had no idea I saw all this, no idea what I now knew. And that meant one thing. I had the advantage. The thought steadied me. For the first time in years, I felt something like control return to my body. I dropped the phone into a drawer. I'd return it later, after I made copies of everything. And I did. Screenshots, notes, transaction records. I spent the entire evening documenting their conversations, tracing every transfer they'd ever made using my information. By midnight, my laptop was filled with neatly organized folders labeled with dates, names, and amounts. It felt surreal, like I was building a case against strangers, not the people I grew up with. When I finally lay down to sleep, I stared at the ceiling for a long time. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was focused. They thought they knew me. They thought I was predictable. They thought I'd roll over forever. They were wrong. Because once I started digging, I uncovered something they never expected me to find, something that would shift every ounce of power in our family. And by the time they realized it, it would already be too late. The next morning, I woke up with the same heaviness in my chest, but it wasn't the same kind of hurt anymore. It was a controlled fire, the kind that burns slow and steady and keeps you moving. I had spent half the night combing through statements, backing up conversations, and lining up every piece of proof I needed. But there was still one thing I hadn't figured out: why the transfers were happening so cleanly. How were they moving money without triggering alerts? How were they accessing my account so easily? I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and opened my laptop again. My bank's interface wasn't complicated, but I noticed something I had missed the night before. Under linked accounts, there were 2 external accounts connected to mine. One was Adam's. I recognized the last 4 digits from the screenshots. The second belonged to Nate. Both flagged as trusted connections, added about 8 months ago. I stared at that line for a full minute. Trusted connections, added without my permission. It clicked. Megan must have added them during the moment she held my unlocked phone. I remembered the way she kept talking to distract me, the fake laugh she did when pretending to scroll. At the time, I didn't think much about it. Now it was clear she'd been buying Adam and Nate full access to my money under the disguise of a quick favor. That realization should have made me angrier. Instead, it made me calm. Too calm. Their stupidity had created exactly the kind of paper trail any investigator would drool over. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one at a disadvantage. They were. I spent the next hour formatting the screenshots into a single document. Dates, transfers, conversations where they bragged about draining me, even where they planned future charges. Everything tied together neatly. I wasn't sure what I planned to do with it yet, but I knew I needed to understand the full story first. The more I dug, the stranger the numbers got. My account didn't show any large sums missing, but the pattern was obvious. Small amounts, strategically spaced out, hidden among legitimate expenses so I wouldn't notice. It was a method designed by someone who knew I didn't check my bank often, someone who assumed I wouldn't recognize a slow bleed. They weren't taking money because they needed it. They were taking money because they thought I wouldn't stop them. Around noon, my phone rang. It was Megan. The caller ID alone made my jaw tighten. I let it ring out. A minute later, she texted, "Hey, you seen my phone? I think I left it there, lol." I stared at the message, amazed at the casual tone. She had no idea that the device sitting in my drawer had already exposed everything she thought she was getting away with. Another call came through, this time from Adam. I didn't answer. Instead, I waited. 15 minutes later, a new message from Megan popped up. Tyler would have for scaring me answer her phone. That made me laugh. After everything they'd done, suddenly I was the scary one. I typed back, "It's safe, I'll bring it by later." No explanation, no emotion, just enough to keep them wondering. A few minutes passed before another text lit up my screen. "Did you go through it? Just tell me." I ignored her. Silence was better than any accusation right now. I spent the next couple of hours preparing copies of my documents on an external drive in case my laptop failed or something happened. I wasn't paranoid, just prepared. If they had gone as far as accessing my banking, who knew what they'd do once they realized I knew? By late afternoon, I decided I needed more than screenshots and statements. I needed to know exactly how deep this went. So I called my bank and asked to speak with someone from fraud prevention. The representative was patient and thorough. After verifying my identity, she reviewed the linked accounts and immediately flagged them. "Sir, did you authorize these connections?" she asked. "No," I said quietly. "I didn't authorize any of it." There was a pause. Then her tone changed, a mixture of concern and certainty. "These connections shouldn't have been approved without a text or email confirmation. If you didn't approve them, it means someone had physical access to your device at the time and bypassed verification settings. We can remove the links and freeze your account immediately if you'd like." "Yes," I said, "do it." She walked me through the process, step by step. With every click, every confirmation, every small digital lock I added, I felt something in me shift. For years, they had walked over me because I never said no. But now I wasn't just saying no. I was undoing every quiet theft they thought they got away with. Once the freeze was complete, she told me something else. "Given the activity, you're entitled to request a full audit. It'll take about a week, but it will list every IP address, device, and login that accessed your account over the last 12 months. My heart thudded. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about proof. The kind of proof that couldn't be argued with or talked around. The kind that forced consequences. "Yes," I said, "please start the audit." When the call ended, I sat back and stared at the wall. They had no idea what I now held in my hands. But something still felt unfinished, like a puzzle with one piece missing. So I opened Megan's phone again. The group chat was still active, filled with frantic messages now. "Nate, you sure he didn't see anything?" "Adam, he's too stupid to figure it out, calm down." "Megan, he's acting weird. I think he knows." "Nate, if he knows, we're screwed." Then Adam sent a message that made my pulse spike. "Relax. Even if he finds out, legally he can't do anything. He doesn't have access to the house stuff." "House stuff?" My scrolling slowed. "House stuff?" I backed out of the chat and searched Megan's phone for any mention of my name paired with house documents. It didn't take long. An email thread popped up, and when I opened it, everything changed. There it was, the missing piece. They hadn't just been stealing money. They had been using my credit, my signature, and my information to secure something far bigger. Something tied directly to a property under my name, a property I didn't even know existed. I must have reread that email thread 10 times, hoping I was misunderstanding it. But no amount of blinking or deep breathing changed the words staring back at me. Megan, Adam, and Nate had used my credit to help secure financing on a property, one I had never heard of, never seen, never signed paperwork for. According to the thread, it was a small 2-unit rental house on the edge of town, the kind of place someone might pick up cheap with plans to flip. except the mortgage application listed me as a silent co-owner and financial guarantor, which meant one thing: they'd used me to get approved, then cut me out of everything after. My hands shook again, but not from fear this time. It was rage. Cold, sharp, organized rage. This wasn't casual exploitation. This wasn't them guilt-tripping me into buying pizza or helping with a bill. This was fraud. Felony-level fraud. And they had been dumb enough to leave the entire paper trail on Megan's phone. The emails went back nearly a year. In the earliest messages, I saw discussions between Adam and a loan officer, emails that mentioned how the second applicant, me, had excellent reliability indicators. They were using my credit score, my stable job, my spotless financial record. They didn't think I'd ever find out because their plan depended on me never questioning anything, and they had been right until now. I clicked into an attachment. It was a scanned page with a signature at the bottom, my signature, except it wasn't my handwriting. I let out a breath that didn't sound like it belonged to me. They had forged my name. They had literally pretended to be me to buy a house they were now renting out, a house I was responsible for on paper, even though they were pocketing the money. My first impulse was to drive to Megan's place and throw the truth in their faces. But I stopped myself. Confrontation would only warn them, and if they sensed I knew, they'd scramble to hide evidence, move money, delete accounts. I needed them relaxed. I needed them confident. I needed them thinking I was still the same pushover they'd always counted on. So I forced myself to stay calm and think like someone who had something to lose. Then I started downloading every email chain, every PDF, every snippet of information I could find. Mortgage documents, loan approvals, tenant agreements, photos of rent payments. Even a message where Adam bragged about how much they were making off Tyler's accidental generosity. Once everything was backed up, I placed the phone back in the drawer and stepped away. I needed fresh air again. I walked aimlessly for a half hour, replaying every moment of the last year. Every time they'd praised me for being reliable. Every fake compliment they'd used to keep me cooperative. Every moment when Megan or Adam had said something that felt slightly off but I had ignored. By the time I returned home, something in me had settled. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I grabbed the drive with my evidence and headed straight to the county recorder's office. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I didn't answer Megan's calls. I didn't respond to the new barrage of texts. At the desk, I asked the clerk to pull up property records tied to my name. She typed for a moment, then said, "You actually have 2 properties under your personal profile. Want the details?" 2? My throat tightened. 2? I repeated. "Yes," she said, turning the monitor slightly so I could see. "This one," she pointed at the rental property I'd just discovered, "and this one here." Another address I didn't recognize. I leaned forward. The second property was a small plot of land just outside city limits. Not expensive, but real. And legally tied to me. "Can I get printed deeds for both?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Of course." She printed the documents, each stamped and official, handing them over like they were nothing more than receipts. But to me, they felt like physical weight. Evidence. Leverage. As I left the office, it hit me. They hadn't just been stealing money and using my credit. They'd been building an entire scheme with me as the foundation, and eventually when something went wrong, and it always does, they planned to blame me, the silent co-owner, the one legally responsible for any missed payments or tax issues. I spent the rest of the afternoon visiting the rental house. The tenants were there, a young couple who seemed confused when I introduced myself. "You're Tyler?" the man asked. "We've only met Adam. He said he was the main owner, but that the loan was in a relative's name." "That relative is me," I said. They exchanged looks. Then the woman lowered her voice. "Is everything okay? Because he told us not to contact whoever the other person was. He said you were just a financial backer." My jaw clenched. Backer. That was the word they used for me. Not brother, not cousin, not family, just the idiot with the credit score. I didn't blame the tenants. They seemed honest, concerned even. I told them there wouldn't be any disruptions and that I was simply checking on some paperwork. But as I walked back to my car, the truth hit me even harder. Adam had been collecting rent for nearly a year, laundering it through Nate's account and using my name as the legal backbone. Megan handled the communication, Nate handled the money, Adam handled the physical property. They didn't just use me, they built a business on me. A business they thought I couldn't touch because they assumed I was clueless. But the audit was coming. The bank connections were gone. The documents were in my possession. And legally, I now had something they didn't realize I controlled. Ownership. Actual, registered, government-verified ownership. By the time I got back home, my phone had exploded with messages from all three of them. Dozens of texts, missed calls, even voice messages. I didn't listen to any of them. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, the same spot where this all started, and made one last decision. When I returned Megan's phone, I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't even going to explain. I was going to let them dig their own graves a little deeper. Because the final proof, the final twist, the final blow that would flip this entire situation on its head, that needed just a little more time. And when it landed, none of them would see it coming. I waited 2 full days before returning Megan's phone. 2 days of silence from me and panic from them. The messages shifted from demanding to defensive to frantic. Adam's tone changed first. His usual arrogance bled into uncertainty. "Tyler, call me now." Then Nate tried to play the peacemaker. "Bro, this is a misunderstanding. Just talk to us." And Megan went from joking to terrified. "Please just tell me you didn't go through anything, please." I didn't reply. I wanted them unsettled. I wanted them imagining what I knew. The truth was, their fear alone told me everything about their guilt. On the 3rd afternoon, I texted Megan, "I'll drop your phone off at 6. No emojis, no explanations, just a time. She sent back a flood of messages, but I didn't open any of them. I grabbed my folder of documents, the printed deeds, the email threads, and the screenshots arranged neatly by date. Then I drove to her apartment building. My heart beat steadily, not fast, not shaky. I had never felt this kind of clarity before. When I knocked, the door opened almost instantly. Megan looked like she hadn't slept in days. Adam and Nate were behind her, arms crossed, faces tight. For the first time in a long time, they didn't look confident. They looked cornered. "Tyler," Megan started, forcing a smile. "Thank God. We've been—" I held up her phone between 2 fingers. "Looking for this?" She swallowed. "Yes. Did you go through it?" I stepped inside without asking permission. They backed up instinctively. They had never seen me like this. Calm, controlled, certain. Adam tried to take charge. "Look, man, if you saw something, it was taken out of context. We joke around. You're too sensitive sometimes." Too sensitive. The same line he used my whole life. But it didn't land now. It slid right off me. "Sit," I said. To my shock, they did. I placed Megan's phone on the table, then set my folder beside it. Adam's eyes flicked to the stack of papers. His jaw tightened. Nate leaned forward, squinting at the labels. "What is that?" he asked. I met his gaze. "Everything." I opened the folder slowly, letting each page land loud on the table. Screenshot after screenshot, transfer lists, printed emails, the forged signature, the deed to the rental house, the deed to the land, the audit notice from the bank. They went pale in real time. Megan covered her mouth. Adam's eyes darted between the documents and the door, like he was calculating escape routes. Nate shook his head, mumbling, "No, no, no." "Megan," I said quietly, "you linked their bank accounts to mine. You gave them access, and you helped forge my name." She burst into tears instantly. "Tyler, I'm sorry. I didn't think it would go this far. I swear." I cut her off. "Save it." Then I turned to Adam. "You handled the tenants. You pocketed the rent. You committed fraud, and you bragged about it." Adam's mouth opened, but nothing came out. For once, he didn't have a speech ready. "And you," I said to Nate, "laundered the money through your account. You kept records bragging about easy transfers." Nate sank back in his chair. I let the silence stretch. "You 3 built an entire operation using my credit, my identity, and my money," I said. "And the best part? You left a perfect trail. Every message, every transfer, every forged document, all tied to you." "Tyler, please," Megan whispered. "We can fix this. We're family." "Are we?" I asked. "Because you didn't treat me like family. You treated me like a tool." No one spoke. I reached into the folder and pulled out the final sheet. the one they had no idea existed. The property control filing. I set it down gently. This, I said, tapping the paper, is what happened when the audit came through. According to the audit, every login tied to the unauthorized mortgage came from their devices. All the IP addresses matched their home networks. Combined with the forged signatures and bank connections, the case practically built itself. Then came the twist that changed everything. The loan officer admitted, under pressure, that he approved the mortgage because he believed I was fully on board. He had text messages from Adam claiming I preferred not to be involved directly, but approved everything. That alone was enough to trigger a legal review. That review uncovered something they never saw coming. Adam used my credit as the backbone, but legally, the primary guarantor, me, held majority stake. They had accidentally made me the controlling owner. Adam stood up fast. "That's impossible," he said. "That's not how it works." "It is when you commit fraud," I said calmly. "The law protects the victim, and according to every file, every login, every document, that victim is me." Megan sobbed harder. Nate stared at the papers like they were written in another language. I leaned back. "Here's what's going to happen. I've already transferred ownership of the rental property and the land into a protected trust in my name. You have zero rights to either. The tenants will be paying me directly from now on." Adam opened his mouth to argue, but I raised a hand. "And before you even think about fighting this, understand something. If I push this any further, the three of you will face charges: forgery, identity theft, tax fraud, financial abuse. I have everything in writing. Every message you thought I'd never see." The room froze in absolute silence. "So here's the deal," I said. "I'm not turning you in. Not because you deserve mercy, because I don't want you in my life anymore. You will pay me every dollar you transferred, every one. You will never contact the tenants again. You will never attempt to access my accounts again. You will not show up at my home. You will not call me for favors. Ever." Megan nodded quickly, still crying. Nate whispered, "Okay." Adam stared at me with a look I'd never seen before: fear. "Good," I said, "because the moment you step out of line, I'll deliver everything," I tapped the folder, "to the police myself." I stood, grabbed my folder, and walked to the door. None of them followed. None of them said goodbye. Outside, the air felt different, cleaner, lighter, like a weight I'd carried my whole life had finally fallen off. As I got into my car, my phone buzzed. A notification from the tenants. Rent received. I smiled for the first time in days. "Pathetic," Adam had once called me. Funny how fast paths change when the person you underestimate finally looks up. And if you've ever been stepped on by the people who claim to love you, I hope my story reminds you that your silence isn't weakness, it's preparation. Thanks for being here with me through all of this. And if you want another story where the quiet one turns everything around, stick around for the next video. You won't want to miss what comes next.